You also want to create your program or agenda. If it is a community event, it could be a little bit more informal. But if it's something to where you are having a speaker and you want to give time for the press to take pictures, you might want to designate a specific time. If you're doing a press conference before the event, you want to make sure that you take the time needed to organize a program, so everyone knows where they fall within that program. And it doesn't have to be very long or very extensive, but just something to where people know what the flow of the day is going to be. And for your sponsors, you also want to make sure that once you get your sponsor solidified, that they send you their logo, because you don't want to have a pixelated logo that looks really bad when you go to put it on your signage. You want to make sure that they send you the logo that they want to use. So make sure that you request that when you're planning. So you want to make sure that you have great record keeping processes. So what I typically do is I have a binder or folder that I use. I'll show you. I really like these from Staples, and they have the plastic here, which really makes it easy to have multiple binders, and they don't kind of turn. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but yeah. So I really like these binders from Staples, and you can get them in all different colors. So I get a binder like this, and then I put all of my documentation in there. When I get the hotel reservations, I'll put that in there. When I get the flight information, it'll go in there. Once I get the layout for the table, I'll show you that in a second. So this is the actual seating chart for the event. So this is going to tell you what the layout is going to be for your tables. If you can see that. So this is a table of 8. 8 rounds is what it would be called. And this was for about 34 people, or 34 tables that we had. So you'll get something like that, where you'll be able to know what the layout is going to be. You can do rounds, you can do rectangular tables. So that'll be something that your committee will determine. So, looking early on, what you want to do, again, you want to identify your speakers. Are you going to have multiple speakers? Are you going to do a panel? You have to contact all of those people that you're thinking of and get confirmations to make sure that everyone can be there on the same date. And then you want to do your sponsor solicitation. This is going to help you underwrite your costs. So if there are major sponsors in your community, if there are banks, if there are credit unions, or hospitals that might help underwrite the cost, law offices, colleges and universities are really great. Anybody who believes in your cause or what you're doing, or has a vested interest in the community, is definitely someone who you would want to approach to ask about sponsorship. So that means that you have to work to create a sponsorship letter. And in that letter, you're going to describe about your event, what the purpose of it is, what outcome you are hoping to gain, and what will be the benefit of this company or organization coming on as a sponsor. What are they going to get? What's going to be the value for them? So you want to explain all of that in your sponsorship letter. So in addition to creating your sponsorship letter, one thing that you also want to do, that you're going to want to do, is create your media team. They're going to be the ones that are responsible for helping get the word out about your event. They're going to help draft your press releases. They're going to make contact with the radio stations if you want to do a radio spot. That'll be something else that you'll need to decide. So when you create your budget, you have to make sure you account for that. Account for your advertising, account for your printing costs, and account for any other promotion that you're going to do and what those costs will be. Your caterer and your food. Early on, you'll need to determine who do you want to cater your food, and what type of meal do you want to have. Do you want to have a plated dinner where people sit down and they're served, or do you want to have a banquet style meal where people are able to get up and go get their food? And that's really going to determine. If you have a keynote speaker, you don't want to have a banquet style dinner where people are getting up and going to get their food and the silverware is making noise and it's really distracting. So really think about what's going to be the best fit for your event. Maybe a week before the event, you want to make sure that you send your caterer the final count for food, just in case you might have more people who showed up than you anticipated or less people that showed up. So you want to give a final count, because you're going to have to pay for the food depending upon how many people are scheduled to come. So you want to give the most accurate count as possible, but always the rule of thumb is always to have too much than too little. So always overestimate as opposed to underestimating for your totals. You also want to make sure that you solidify entertainment. Do you want to have an artist? Do you want to have a songstress, a pianist, someone who comes in to do spoken word, someone who comes in to do opera? Do you want to have dancers? So make sure that you have all of your entertainment lined up, and then they know what order they're going in, that you get the cost for all of that, which is going to factor into your budget. And then that they also know when they're going to perform. If they need any music, you want to make sure that you get that on the front end as well. Some other vendors that you might want to consider having at your event would be a videographer. That will be someone who will go around and tape your event for you and can really put that together on a nice DVD or upload it to your website or to your YouTube channel. So you really want to consider having a videographer at your event, as well as a photographer, just someone who could go around and snap some quick shots, get people engaging in your event, pictures of children, if it's a family event, pictures with the keynote speaker. So you really want to have some things that really speaks to the success of your event, and you want to get a good photographer who can do maybe that 2 days before the event. You want to make sure that you go check out the venue, make sure the audio visual is working, make sure the room is set up the way that you want it. If you want it to have a stage, make sure that the length of the stage is what you wanted. If you wanted a podium, you want to make sure that all of those things are in place. If you wanted any signage at the venue, make sure that you go to the venue a day before to make sure that everything is laid out the way that you want it. And then the day of the event, make sure you get there early enough to look everything over and to make sure that it's exactly how you want it. When you have your speaker, make sure that you put water at the podium. This is something that I sometimes forget to do. They're up there speaking for 45 minutes, an hour and a half. They'll need some water. So make sure that if you have a podium, make sure you have that available for your guest speaker. So your event goes off with success, everything goes well. That's just one phase of it. Planning and implementation is one thing, and then after the event, there's still some debriefing that needs to take place. You need to have a debrief meeting after your event to determine what things went well, what things went wrong, what could you have done differently, what are some things to take into consideration for the next event, what happened that you didn't anticipate, or what went really well that you kind of surprised you, kind of shocked you a little bit, and it's something that it went so well that you want to continue to do it for the rest of your events. So that's what the debrief session is for, to bring in all the people who were part of the planning, who were on your committee, and then talk about the success or failures of the event. So you want to make sure that you do that. And then you also want to take time to send thank you letters out to your sponsors. You want to make sure that they get a copy of the souvenir book. You want to follow up with anyone who owes you money. You want to make sure that you finalize all your bills and invoices, and you pay people who need to be paid. So after the event is the wrap up. You want to wrap up everything that you did for the event, and you want to tie up any loose ends. So that's basically it. That is really what goes into planning a successful event. If you would like to get this information, it will be available on my website in the form of a check sheet. So make sure that you check that out. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Yep, and I think that's about it. If you have any questions, please visit my website, www.thomascconsulting.com. Thank you.